Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks very much for tuning in. You're watching Times Now. My name is Amita Vadva. So currently underway is the bilateral between External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And as far as the developments are concerned, the opening statement that has now come in from both sides, so the bilaterals, and this is when we get down to business. All the issues, multiple sectors is something that's going to be taken up before a press briefing that is expected in some time from now. And of course, later in the day, we're looking at other engagements that Marco Rubio would also be a part of. So the U.S. Secretary of State, along with Ambassador Sergio Gore, currently meeting External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar at the Hyderabad House in the national capital. And the visit is quite significant because it is coming at a time of growing geopolitical uncertainties and also a very crucial phase in India-U.S. relationship. Right from the West Asia conflict to global energy concerns, and also when it comes to the trade issues, the India-U.S. partnership is on sharp focus. When Rubio met Prime Minister Modi yesterday, and today we are looking at the discussions that are expected to focus on energy security, trade, defense, and also critical technology. So let's, in the meantime, take a look when it comes to the meeting that is currently underway, the opening statements that came in from both sides as well. And of course, Marco Rubio said that, he had a fantastic first day. This is a 4-day official visit. And in second day, we're looking at the bilaterals when key issues such as India-US trade deal is something that is to be taken up. Then there is defense cooperation as well. Oil supply and energy, we are looking at the West Asia war situation. Of course, when it comes to China's growing presence in the Indo-Pacific, that also will be taken up in about 2 days from now on Tuesday when the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting happens. And of course, when it comes to technology investment and counter-terror coordination is something that is also likely to focus in this current meeting. Then long-term partnership also said to be one of the focus over there, because it is important to note what Marco Rubio has said. Srinjoy is right there, and he's been getting us the reports from the Hyderabad House. Srinjoy, the camaraderie. What has been witnessed from both sides? Of course, an invitation that Marco Rubio has extended to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But today is when we get down to business. The bilateral is underway.
Yes, this is a very important bilateral because in a sense it's the beginning. Because all this while you've heard all those things about tariffs and Sindoor and so on. Now this is a reset. This is an attempt by both leaders, the External Affairs Minister and the Secretary of State, to take America and India, the relationship forward. The idea is to look at trade, to look at defense. The trade deal has to be done, and naturally there will be discussions about it. We know that a lot of American investments are planned. Microsoft, Google, these are serious numbers, $15, $17 billion. Now this will help India. Besides that, the Americans are very keen after having sold the 31 MQ-9 Predators to India, to the armed forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, all of them, for other things like the Javelin anti-tank weapon and also the Striker. Now, India has very mixed feelings about these. We have to see how that goes. But besides that, trade is going to be important. And of course, the three big names that will always come up in such talks. Iran will come up, Gaza will come up, Russia, Ukraine will come up. So it's a big meeting, and let's see.
Joy, currently getting us the live updates from the Hyderabad House. And as far as what happened right at the beginning, when the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, reaffirming the importance of India-U.S. strategic partnership and also highlighting growing opportunities for cooperation between the world's two largest democracies across trade, energy, and global challenges.
Secretary Rubio, very warm welcome. I know this is your first visit. Looking forward to our discussions today. Now, we have a comprehensive global strategic partnership, which I think in plain language means that we have a very deep, very broad-based cooperation and a relationship that impacts and influences other regions and the world. And that is because we have converging interests on many issues and in many parts of the world. So I look forward to our conversation today. These are complicated times, but as strong partners, I'm very confident we'll have very open and productive discussions. Once again, a very warm welcome.
Well, thank you for welcoming us and our entire delegation. It's already been a fantastic first day, and we're looking forward to our visits and our talks today and learning more about the country. Here, a 4-day trip probably doesn't do a country of this size and diversity justice in terms of all the things we need to learn and see, but it's certainly a good start. And so thank you for welcoming us the way you do. And as you've highlighted, the United States and India aren't just allies, we're strategic allies, and that's a critical importance. We obviously work with countries all over the world and all over the region on a variety of issues as they emerge, but our strategic partnership is what sets this relationship apart, because it's not simply limited to the region. It extends to opportunities to cooperate globally in different regions of the world. And that includes potentially, as I said, even as we discussed a bit last night at dinner, or in the Western Hemisphere and places like that. So thank you for welcoming us. We have a lot to discuss and a lot to work on, but this is we are the 2 largest democracies in the world, and so that alone is a baseline for incredible cooperation. But we have so many common interests that it makes all the sense in the world for us to continue to build, really, to build upon. This is not about restoring or reinvigorating. I've seen some people use that terminology. This is about continuing to build on what is already a very solid and strong strategic partnership, one of the most important ones that we have, and I would argue one of the most important ones in the world. So thank you.
Well, let's introduce our panelists joining us this afternoon on the broadcast. We have Dr. Jeffrey Gunter joining us as a former diplomat. Thank you very much, sir, for taking out your time. Achal Malhotra, sir, who is also a former diplomat, joining us here on the broadcast. Sir, good afternoon. And Sierra, of course, continues to be with us. Well, good evening to you, Sierra. And when we talk about all of these developments that has been taking place, Dr. Gunter, what is your point of view as far as, it's very interesting. Marco Rubio mentions that this is not a reset of ties, as, we often have been losing here in India, but a lot has changed in a span of 1 year, sir.
Yeah, I've been saying it on your show for a year now. The relationship between India and America is incredibly strong. And it's based, like on our great Secretary of State said, a personal relationship between your great Prime Minister Modi and President Trump. It's also based on the fact that we are the 2 largest democracies in the world. We have converging interests. We have values that have already converged, our great love of freedom and our great love of democracy. So really, when you talk about this relationship, it's strategic. It's not just localized to the Indo-Pacific region. It really spans across the world. And as you've noticed, our great Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has been very focused on the Western Hemisphere. And I don't believe that it's just some coincidence that the Western Hemisphere was mentioned in his comments in conjunction with, discussions of the Indo-Pacific with India. You are a great partner. You're a great country. Great things will happen. And like I've always said, we're going to have 100,000 people in the stadium in India watching President Trump and your great Prime Minister Modi on the stage. And we'll probably see the same thing in America, too. So this is just the beginning. We are building onto great things. The $500 billion deal that we have, a rough commitment from India, and you'll see other great things going the other direction.
That the invitation has already been extended by President Trump to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Remains to be seen if President Trump himself will be coming down to New Delhi to meet the Prime Minister for the Quad Summit. But speaking of the challenges there, I would want to put our focus, especially when it comes to what could be, when it comes to these meeting that is currently underway. 2 days from now, there's going to be the Quad of Foreign Ministers meeting as well. And ahead of the expected summit, the leaders later in the year in Delhi, so far it is still not confirmed whether President Trump would be there in person to attend the summit. Then challenge another one where India wants to boost its energy imports. US Marco Rubio has already said that, we are very good in that field, but we are ready to sell as much as India is willing to buy. But the energy shipments coming from the US is going to be a much longer, much costlier, much expensive route for India to undertake. Then there is another challenge, the current situation in the Middle East or West Asia for us, the US-Iran war. Marco Rubio says that he has conveyed to Prime Minister Modi yesterday that Washington will not allow Iran to hold global energy markets hostage. However, India too is on very good terms with Iran. Then when we speak of another challenge after the interim trade agreement in February, the 2 sides have been locked in fierce negotiations over the final text of the broader bilateral deal in which no sides want to emerge, to be as the losing side. And then, of course, when it comes to the Pakistan factor, Now, President Trump's open affection for Pakistan and its military chief hasn't gone down well with India. And of course, when it comes to the so-called role of a mediator that Pakistan desperately has been trying to play. However, when it comes to their own administration of President Trump, there have been questions that have been raised on Pakistan's role. So, Achal sir, what is your understanding when we take a look at multiple factors there? Because yes, there are issues that need to be ironed out, but the very presence of President Trump just last week when he was in China, and Marco Rubio is not just here, talking about bilateral deals. This is a big extended program because he's visiting other cities as well.
Good afternoon. Afternoon also to my co-panelists. Well, I think there are three broad objectives of Marco Rubio's visit to India. First and foremost is to reset the relations, whatever he may say. Like he said, it's not a reset, it's a continuation. I mean, even to a naive person, it's quite clear that it took decades for the two countries to build up a relationship which is called Comprehensive Global Strategic Partnership. Each word in it has a meaning. It's comprehensive because it covers so many areas. It's global because it's not confined only to bilateral relations, but it shows the convergence or divergence of views and opinions on anything and everything that is happening in the world. And of course, it is strategic. So to say that there was no damage done in the past 1 year, it would be very naive. But I am happy that the Americans have decided finally to do something to reset, to reinvigorate, or whatever word you want to use. Of course, ever since Ambassador Gore came to New Delhi, he has been making very serious efforts to mend the ties. And even if it is a beginning of a fresh beginning, that must be welcome. Second issue, which is important from Americans' point of view and even from our point of view, is the energy security. Here there are two elements. One, the Americans wanting to sell us oil, and this is primarily the American and the Venezuelan oil. We, on our part, are in the process of diversifying our procurement of the oil and gas from wherever, anywhere in the world. Economics is one issue, whether it suits us or not, but we are familiar with the Venezuelan oil because our refineries are some of the very few refineries in the world which are capable of refining the hard crude oil coming from Venezuela. So this is very positive.
Right, sir.
The other is civil nuclear cooperation in the area of nuclear energy, the civil part. And there, I think much of it has been left to the private sector.
Right,
if
sir.
I'm not wrong, last week, I think, there was a U.S. business was in town, a large delegation from Westinghouse. They were in town. They had meetings with our minister. So that's one area where we can hope to, because we have set a very massive targets for ourselves. Take the nuclear energy to 100 gigawatt by 2047. Yes. At this point of time, we have only 8.8 gigawatt. So this is very important area. And there we have small modular reactors, micro reactors, and many other areas. So let's see how it pans out. Third most important is we must get a clear idea as to what is America's position, our approach, our attitude towards Quad at this point of time.
Right, sir.
There are reasons for that. And we must get an idea of the last 15 months.
Let me take that question to Sierra, Achal sir, because when we talk about the Quad, Sierra, the Quad vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific, when it comes to the exchanging of views on advancing Quad cooperation is a priority area, but always the elephant in the room is China.
Yeah, well, I think that, as I was talking about earlier, China is an issue that the U.S. and India are interested in, are called to confront, really. But not only on the military aspects. There's so much other influence that China is trying to put out in the region, especially, which is especially relevant for India, but also for the U.S., And so just increasing our cooperation on all of these areas, whether it be Chinese censorship, Chinese technology, their debt trap diplomacy, all of these things are issues that India and the U.S. together can address and help, stabilize, because China is actually a destabilizing force. They like to talk that they're a stabilizing force, but when you look at their actions, they're not. And I think that India is actually a country that is interested in stabilizing. And so that's an area where the U.S. can cooperate.
But Dr. Gunter, does it become stabilizing, when it comes to the China factor? Because this is one thing that cannot be ignored. How is President Trump trying to, balance out that? He was there in China. I mean, lots been happening in India's neighborhood. Then came in President Putin of Russia to China. Iranian foreign minister was here in India. Then the field marshal of Pakistan was in Tehran just yesterday. How are you going to balance out all of that, especially when we speak of Quad, the initiatives that reflect on the recent developments in the Indo-Pacific region? Is it actually to cut down on China's growing influence?
Absolutely, 100%. President Trump will make a deal. He loves the deal. It's the art of the deal. In your guys' case and in the world's case, it'll be the art of the deal on steroids. So what does that mean? It means more American oil replacing...
No, Dr. Gunter, sorry to interrupt you. Then why ask for China for help when it comes to reopening of the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, because we're all making deals. We have to have certain strategic interests in the region, and you don't make any progress when you aren't talking to people and finding commonality. I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in with foreign ministers or prime ministers where you search and find common interests, and that's how you push the ball forward. And right now, what we're doing is we're triangulating out Iran, and we're going to get as many partners as possible to do that, to isolate them, to open up the Strait of Hormuz. And if that takes Chinese help...
So does it imply that there is a trust deficit that still continues? I mean, yes, it is a global evolving situation, and it is all very complicated, as our External Affairs Minister just mentioned, hoping that things would be ironed out, and of course to each benefit, and hoping for the end of the war, at least for a lasting peace in the region. Thank you very much, all of you, joining us here on the broadcast. Atul sir, Sierra, and Dr. Gunter, appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast.